This is a Rogue Media Network podcast.
Women of Interest is your backstage pass to the stories behind the success.
Get ready to be inspired and empowered as we highlight the resilience, determination, and passion of women who embody the heart and the spirit of Texas.
Emily,
Here we are.
I can't believe it. I'm so excited to be here with you today.
I am too.
Thank
it's
you
a little
so
bit
much.
of a new idea actualized, and I think for you it's 3 years in the making.
I have been talking to Mike and Rogue Media for a while. Things had to get in place, but it took the right timing and the right person.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for joining and being the co-host of this.
Oh, I'm so glad. I love the vision of what WACOAN's doing. I love the idea of women of interest. I think Waco, Texas at large is just full of women that we get to watch coming through here and watch impacting Waco in very unique ways. And women are the backbone, you know?
So many people that we interview in the magazine that I want to know more.
Yeah.
Because there's so much more to their story that we just get a little taste in the magazine. And when we sit down here, we're just going to get to know how they started, why they started, and what they're going to be doing that maybe they've expanded on. And maybe also, too, I want to go back and ask them if we've interviewed them, like yourself. You've been in the magazine before, and what you're doing now. I think that's always
kind of the evolution of maybe knowing someone of where they've started, but maybe you've not kept up with where they've grown.
right.
And
Or
in
new
some ways,
ideas.
it's like you're going to give, I think this format is going to give us a real way to see women as whole beings and not even just what they do,
Right.
but who they are. And for me, knowing you as, founder, right? Editor-in-chief, co-founder,
yeah.
editor-in-chief of WACOAN magazine. I mean, that's a very strong role. And so I think, over the past couple of years, as I've gotten to know you, you become a more vibrant, a more diverse person, because humans aren't, one-dimensional. And so I just think this is going to give a really cool opportunity to show that.
Well, and also I've seen you speaking, and I've always admired what you've done, and you and your husband of all the things. I was looking back of when I first knew who you were. It was with, I saw a Baylor magazine, Focus.
Okay.
And I'm always looking around town at different things, of course, because I'm in publishing and do that. And saw Jesus Loves Strippers.
Yeah, right?
And that just immediately caught my eye. What is this?
Right.
Who is this? This is awesome. I love it. Who doesn't love that? So it immediately drew me in because visuals draw me in and wanted to know more. And so that's storytelling. They did a great job.
Yeah.
And so I told my staff about it and told them about you. And then I've seen you in the community and just kind of wanted to know more about what you did. And you've always been a visionary for developing different and new ideas. What made you want to do that?
Yeah. Gosh. So to start back, Jesus Said Love, Lovely Village began as Jesus Said Love. And it began as a grassroots outreach to women who were in strip clubs. And
Which is very bold.
I mean, it is. You look back and you're like, what was I thinking?
Did y'all just kind of go in when
Yeah.
You just went in?
We went in with permission.
Okay.
So we knew of another group. So backing up just a tiny bit,
please do.
Brett and I met where we can see now at the beautiful Alico at Rogue Media.
This has an amazing view, by the way, if you didn't know.
Amazing.
We're on the 21st floor of the Alico building.
It's so great.
Which is so cool.
And so I can see the church that First Baptist Church, downtown Waco, where Brett and I got married and where we led large group Bible study together while we were Baylor students. We really thought that our work in the world was going to be as Christian musicians. That's really what I thought I would be doing with my life, was making Christian music. And we were invited in 2004 to go sing at a women's conference in Austin, Texas. And when we were there, we didn't know it, but it was for a ministry that was reaching women on the streets who had been engaged in prostitution and women who were in clubs. Wow. And it was the first time I'd ever heard of that type of outreach or ministry existing. And what struck me was the women who got on the stage were survivors of the commercial sex industry, and every single one of their stories had the thread of sexual violence, childhood sexual abuse. That was part of my story. But I had no idea why and how she ended up in this work and why I ended up as a graduate of Baylor University, having my first child with a loving husband. And honestly, somewhere in my mind, I knew that it had to be more than just the placating, oh, but by the grace of God. Like, not that that's not enough, but I knew that there were other factors. And so what I've come to understand as we started engaging with women, started doing outreach, was I began to recognize and put the pieces of my own story together and realize I had a village of support. I had a Sunday school teacher who drove me to Baylor who said, I want you to go to a 4-year university. I believe you can do this. My mom didn't graduate college. My dad had kind of a patchwork degree from UT Texas, UT Tyler, kind of JUCO, played football. But my Sunday school teacher saw something in me and she said, I went to Baylor University. Have you ever thought about going there? And I was like, I don't know. I don't know anything about Waco or Baylor. And she drove me down here, set up a meeting at the financial aid office. And if it weren't for this village of women who surrounded my life, who mentored me, and the extended family network I had grandfathers and grandmothers and aunts and cousins, and all of these people nurtured me in a way that I have realized now so many people do not have access to. And so it really became Lovely Village now grew from this understanding as we got to know women and their stories in the clubs, that this was really bigger than just anything like, oh, Jesus loves you. It's like, yeah, but how's my light bill going to get paid? Or are you going to go to court with me and advocate for my child and me to be reunified? Or what about stable housing? What about trafficking? I mean, everything.
And I noticed that when you went into the clubs, part of your vision or part of your mission or part of the resources that you were doing was you had a counselor with you. You had a attorney with you. You had that village with you going into the clubs.
We grew it. Yes, we grew the village.
So that when the women might ask those questions,
yes,
you had that available to them, which I find so fascinating and so wonderful, that when they were ready to, if they weren't ready, mm-hmm. because I know you pushing it on them, mm-hmm. you're just there, mm-hmm. That when they ask those questions, you're mm-hmm. there. When I, that's the kind of work maybe I do, but just different.
I love that. Okay, yeah, say more.
I mean, I was at summer camp it's Laity Lodge, a youth camp, and their mission is more how you live your life mm-hmm. as a Christian mm-hmm. comes off in that way. Mm-hmm. So you don't ever have to just force it on it. It's more organic. So mm-hmm. if you're a good person, mm-hmm. hopefully that rubs off that way. Yeah. And I love that as we're sitting down here and you're telling your story, I'm hoping that telling more like this in mm-hmm. a conversation, it might hit someone to do something about it. Yeah. And that's what the magazine, I feel for so many years, someone might pick it up and find something that someone's doing and say, oh my gosh, yeah, I want to do that too.
Well, it's really about inspiring that human connection. And I think that what is so interesting about reading people's stories and about knowing people's stories and what interests them is that, we are biologically geared and wired for connection. And so we're always seeing ourselves in others.
Right.
And
Right.
so someone once said, I don't remember who it was, but an author I was reading said, a good story is one that is a good story, but a great story is one that helps you know your story.
Oh, I love that.
And I'm like, okay.
That is a great.
Because when I'm reading a book, right, or when I'm reading an article, if I can start going, wow, that makes me think about how I've done this or how I've done that. So,
I love that.
Yeah.
That's a perfect way of saying it.
Yeah. So I'm always inspired by really good stories and the stories that you put in the magazine and women who are interesting, who are doing things their own unique way. We have a lot to learn.
And also all varieties and all types and all ages. We had a 20-year-old in the magazine, and I didn't know she was 20, and she's she's helping to run a fitness club and ministering as well.
Wow.
And so it's just all ages in Waco that are doing amazing things.
It is. I know. It's fascinating.
Yes.
Yeah. One of the things that when you said, when you went into the clubs, like you had the attorney there or you had the counselor there. Yeah. One of the things that has been so cool about growing an organization in Waco is how once we got the word out to people, whether it was in our small groups or in our churches, just around town as people would hear about it, there was a plethora of people who came to us and said, I can offer this service or I could do this. And Waco is so
That's
rich
what I was going to say.
in, resources that are generous,
giving.
so giving.
So giving. And they are nonprofits in Waco.
Yeah.
There are so many, like I want to say it used to be 80 plus.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that doesn't sound like a lot, but for Waco it is. And they're
Yeah.
all kind of competing in their own way, but everyone is finding their own niche of how they want to give.
Yes.
And their own way of how they are providing for the community.
Mm-hmm.
And Wacoans are finding ways to give.
Yeah.
And they love to do it.
Yeah.
And we have a lot of resources
We
here.
do.
And so many different Wacoans that you wouldn't know
Mm-hmm.
that have the resources to do it.
Mm-hmm.
This community, it always surprises me
Mm-hmm.
how they find ways to give.
And I will say at first I was a little, as you're growing, you hit these like speed bumps, right? Where it was kind of like the usual ways, the usual support, because there was so many new things emerging. It felt like every 5 years you turned around and there was a new nonprofit and a new thing. And there is a sense of like scarcity for a minute where you go, oh, we're not going to have, oh my gosh,
Okay.
I totally felt that. I was like, wait, what? Why are they doing that? Because now how do we not double up on services here or there? Or what if we don't have enough? And again, I think it was an opportunity and has been an opportunity for me to either, one, use my voice more creatively,
Mm-hmm.
or two, get to know and understand the deeper feeling or deeper emotion that was creating that response. And if it was connected to my own trauma, then I needed to deal with that.
And step back.
And
figure out something. What I thought was fascinating that you've done, and really people take note, Emily, of what you do and what you and Brett do, but your fundraising efforts are so different.
Thank you.
In a good way.
Thanks.
Because
yes, that was hard.
You pivot.
Yeah.
In a good organization and pivots.
Yeah.
and you guys,
We're pivoters.
you make noise.
We are.
And I love
know.
it. I mean, when you guys did your fire,
Wild torch.
yes, it was amazing.
Yeah.
People took notice.
Yeah.
It was a different fundraiser. You blocked off the front of the Hippodrome on Austin Avenue. You had art pieces and people that
live artists.
Live artists. That's what. And people, if they weren't at that event, they should have been. They felt that. And then your voices, you said using your voices, had a concert. Yeah. And music and dancers. And it was just, it was a different enough event where you felt like, okay, you took notice. And so if you didn't go, you wanted to go the next year. And then you want to, I don't know if you had different people give after that or take notice. I don't know. I mean, to me though, it was a pivot of how y'all do fundraising. Yeah.
You know, because we didn't start or have any education in nonprofit fundraising, we're communication majors, Brett and I both, which just says we love to talk a lot about the things that we're passionate about. And then we're musicians, so we're creatives. Yeah. And so I think fundraising felt very stiff to us. And as artists and communicators, we wanted an experience. Yeah, we wanted an experience because we weren't changed in our lives without experiences that were powerful, where we got like this sense of like, there's something bigger than ourselves, like calling out to us. Like we wanted people in the audience to feel that. And so I think where we've struggled, to be really honest, is we can get so big and we can get so creative that some of the finer details of like, yeah, but you didn't tell me the metrics and the data of the outcomes. We're like, dang it, you're right. We need to go back and get a little more linear and practical with that. So we're learning. We're learning how to get better.
Everyone has to learn. I think that's running a business.
Yeah, true.
And I mean, I think I am certainly learning every day.
I bet.
How to run a business, and I didn't go to business school.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean,
I can't wait. I'm interviewing you next episode. I'm going to dig all in, Michelle.
What was I thinking? Yeah. You know, but I love what I do, but I also deal with employees, and it's hard.
So where do you, I'm just curious, not to jump ahead, but like, where do you go? Like, what are sources that you go to? Because, right, like you didn't go to business school.
I know, it's interesting.
What is your background? Hi, Michelle. Where did you go to school? Did you go to school? I don't know. Does it matter? You have WACOAN magazine now.
Went to Baylor. And my ex-husband and I both went to Baylor. We fell in love with Waco, and we're from Austin, and we saw the potential here.
Yeah.
I mean, it's halfway distance between Austin and Dallas, has a river, a beautiful downtown. It has to grow.
Yeah.
Bought a building downtown, bought a building on Valley Mills Drive. We have a business partner, James Dillard, and he helped with that. I was an elementary school teacher.
Okay.
And absolutely loved it.
Wow. Where did you teach?
At South Waco Elementary.
Okay. Awesome.
And it was very difficult. Loved those kids. A lot of those kids dealt with a lot of things that you're that the people that you work with were dealing with, and I loved them. And actually wanted to take them home. And I think one of the things that my coworkers would say is, they don't want to live with you.
Right. right?
That's not your job.
Yeah. What
to
a
fix them.
check.
Yeah.
Right? Of our
Yeah.
own like
You're not
ingrained
your
savior mentality. I know,
Exactly.
right? But we don't.
I'm going to save all these babies.
I know.
No, it's not your
No.
job. Your
No.
job is to love them, love on them,
Mhm.
and teach them,
Yeah.
and be with them
Mhm.
during the day and love them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I did. But then we had kids, and I stayed at home
Yeah.
for a little tiny bit.
Mhm.
'Cause I can't stay home.
You can't
very
stay
long.
still.
No.
Yeah.
No.
So you always had kind of a little bit of an innovative or entrepreneurial,
I
maybe
did.
spirit.
I mean, my dad is an entrepreneur.
Okay.
And in oil and gas and in real estate.
Mine
and
too.
What?
Yeah, I didn't know that.
What?
That's so funny.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's so weird.
I know. I grew up, it was feast or famine in my family in the 80s. The oil business was like,
Oh no,
up and down.
Sincerely,
yes.
Emily.
So yeah, my dad still is in the,
He is.
oh yeah.
Well, mine's not
Yeah.
because it.
Oh, it's.
Oh,
and-
I would always say I wish I went to business school
right.
and just stayed with my dad in the oil and gas. But
I don't think my dad can convince any of his 3 children
that's what happened.
to stay with
That's
that.
what happened.
We've all said my brother still works some for him, but has other
Oh,
ventures
my
going on.
Goodness.
But yeah, real estate for my brother. But yeah, in my hometown of Tyler. But yeah, my dad's in the oil business, and it was a ride. What
It
a ride.
is.
So yeah, it's interesting that little thread runs through both of us. You get a little scrappy though.
Oh my gosh.
I
I loved going out on.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that's fun.
Wow.
So you've had that entrepreneurial DNA,
I do,
maybe.
for sure, and very. I can take on any challenge,
Mm-hmm.
and but I love people,
Mm.
and my dad. I mean, he loved people. Could talk to
Mhm.
anyone.
Yep.
And so I grew up like that as
Mhm.
well, and so the magazine was a perfect fit.
Yeah.
Um,
Have you always enjoyed? Do you enjoy writing, or do you enjoy
I cannot
editing?
write.
You can't write.
I cannot write.
I think a lot of people think to own a magazine or
I think if you ask my friends that really know me,
Mhm.
laugh.
Okay. They're
I
like, this
know.
isn't it ironic, in the
Uh-huh.
words of Alanis Morissette.
Yes, because they know I can't.
Okay.
Now I do love writing my publisher page, and I do love. I mean, I do know how to write. Now I could not write.
Okay.
How
Yeah.
about that?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Good to know.
I can't edit.
Okay. Not an editor.
No.
So you kind
I
of,
can
you're a facilitator.
I can
You're pulling.
facilitate, and I'm
Mhm.
creative, and I
Yeah.
can tell you what I do like and don't like, and I can have a vision for anything.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Okay.
I can sell.
So what is the source if you didn't have, like, where do you go when you're having,
So okay, back to the
business?
original question.
yes, sorry, we got off.
Sorry, I know. I do ask some business girlfriends, and we do talk about it. I
Okay.
do have some girlfriends in town that we talk to. But it is really kind of difficult because you can't just throw all that out there.
Right.
I do go to podcasts.
Yeah, same.
So that's kind of where
Yeah.
I go.
Uh-huh.
Um,
Well, we're living in such a really cool time where we have so many resources
yes.
to figure these things out.
Yeah.
It's not quite as hard as it used to be
Right.
when we were growing up
Right.
to encyclopedias or go to the library and read a whole
there's-
book.
Exactly. And there's not too many publishing
Mm-hmm.
business, so I do have to kind of go outside the box. But business wise, I ask my dad a lot of things too. But I don't know.
Yeah.
Here and there, different things. What about you?
Yeah. I love podcasts. And I do love to write.
Okay.
So writing
okay.
Writing has been both. I wrote my first poem when I was 8 years old
Really?
in my dad's office, and he was on the 4th floor, and I thought it was so cool that his building had like 5 floors, and we
Yeah,
were on the
that's a
4th, and in Tyler,
deal.
Texas, where everything's pretty much like this, except for a few buildings. it was so cool to see. And so that perspective, there was something interesting. So I just remember writing my first poem as an 8-year-old. I asked for a typewriter when I was in the 5th grade. And so my dad found an old one and gave it to me. And so I love to sit down and write. And then I wrote my first song. So I was a little bit of a late bloomer in songwriting, not singing, but songwriting. And a lot of singers, pop singers that I idolized in the 80s, weren't writers. They had a lot of other people writing for them. Like Whitney Houston didn't write her own music. It was an era where songwriters could remain behind the scenes and get a big vocalist to, make them a lot of money, essentially.
Have you had your songs sung by other people?
Well, have I had my songs? Yes. Recently, I have had some songs sung by other people. Yeah, but I don't think a lot of them. I know one that I wrote called People Wait, and it was about Gary Rhodes from Highland, the worship pastor there, wrote for Word Music, and he did some choral arrangements, and he asked me, can we take this song and most of your lyrics, or could you help rewrite kind of the Christmas story, a Christmas version of People Wait? Because I originally wrote it as an Easter resurrection song. And so we took it and rewrote it. And so there's choirs who perform that song now. So I still get tiny little royalty checks here and there when a choir performs that song. So that's really
cool.
fun. I love songwriting. So I've already thought once I have grandchildren, I have a whole album for my grandchildren one day, because songwriting and writing in general, it is a way for my brain. It's almost like it goes into a space where everything gets to make sense and I get to lay off the gas a little bit. It is so not about execution. And it is so much about going into the interior and drawing from a deeper well. And it's so calming. I really think writing is what saved me over and over again. And what I didn't know about singing, and I just was given the gift to be able to sing, but it is regulating to your nervous system. Just the sound of humming literally settles your, vagus nerve, and it puts everything lower. And I'm just man, I was singing my whole life through hard things because I just intuitively knew this feels good.
Yeah, it needed to calm.
Yeah, it just needed to calm. So it was my way to calm.
I've never heard it in that way. And it's such a beautiful way of saying it, and I've never heard it.
Mm.
I have a really good writer friend who is a beautiful writer, and she just learned, or she joined the Catholic Church and has become a singer again.
Oh, I love it.
And she sent me Ave Maria from Christmas.
Wow.
And what you just described is her too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. It's just beautifully.
It's so,
displayed.
The arts are so life-giving, they're so powerful. They're so life-giving. And so I do think pulling from these abstract places, maybe that's what's made WACOAN successful. Maybe that's what has helped Lovely Village along the way is going outside of what the mainstream would say. Well, if you're going to have a nonprofit, you got to have this, 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 and this. And if you're going to own a magazine, you've got to be this writer. But I think the way that, and honestly, so many women, we've had to pull from multiple sources to move forward.
It has to be just a little special, a little different. And people know, and people see it. And so if it's a little bit more that way, I think people just gravitate to it.
Yeah.
And I think what you're doing, and then you're going to be writing for us, which I'm very excited about. And that's going to be coming up.
I'm very excited.
And not which I love, which is very exciting. It's not what we have already.
Mm.
And a little bit topics that people may be uncomfortable with, which I'm good with,
Right. Yeah.
because I think it's okay to talk about things like
Yeah.
that.
Mm-hmm.
Our magazine shouldn't just be all fluffy and look at me.
Mm-hmm.
It should be more topics about how can we talk about this and
Mm-hmm.
be okay.
Yeah.
And that is what I'm hoping people will see in your column.
I hope so. You'll have to
And-
help me
Oh my gosh, I don't
put it
think
together.
you need any help at all.
I think I'm excited about exploring and really using my voice in a very different way. It does feel a little risky to put ideas in print. It feels so different to me than just
really?
writing on social media. You can go delete it.
Oh.
If it gets criticism, if it gets, it's like, oh, take it down or whatever. But it feels like a risk, but one that I want to take at 46 years old, who's spent 20 years of my life giving to so many. I am really, really looking forward to talking about what I've learned.
Yeah. And I think you'll be really surprised in a wonderful way, because when I sometimes put things out there, and it's so random, some people will say something and some people won't,
Yeah.
some on the publisher page, some people, I'll put something there and I don't hear anything.
Uh-huh.
And then I'll put something so specific, and someone will stop me. And it was at a Christmas party. She's like, I loved what you put. Thank you so much. And it was very vulnerable.
Wow.
I had even told my staff, I think I should delete this one.
Okay.
And they said maybe. Because it was
out there.
It was out there.
Yeah.
And that is the one that I got the comment.
Yeah.
Because it was a little bit more truthful.
Sure. Yeah, and just authentic.
It was authentic, truthful. It was like, oh my God, I've had a day, or I've had a month.
Yeah.
And that was the one that someone said.
Yeah.
I ripped that one out and put it on the fridge.
Wow. There you go.
And I'm like, okay, maybe I should be a little bit more, out there.
Yeah.
So I think being vulnerable and putting yourself out there, it can be good.
Yeah.
My kids were worried when I started putting too many things out there. They're like, do you really need to necessarily put that?
I know.
So I have to kind of be aware, but sometimes it's just okay. I mean, we're old enough now.
Right.
Like you said.
Yeah.
I mean,
we've done some work.
I mean, we've been through a lot.
Been through a lot.
It's
I'm still here and I'm still standing.
Right. It's okay at this point in my life.
Right.
Like you're saying, it's just,
yeah.
Some people just need to hear it.
Yeah.
And need to know that, oh my God, she's going through that too.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And
that's the connection.
That's the connection.
That they need to know.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And I wonder sometimes when I read pieces that I really resonate with, I think the connection becomes, I wasn't crazy for thinking that, or I wasn't crazy for questioning that, or, it gives us permission, like a giant permission slip to get curious.
Yeah.
With our lives, with the things that we're seeing in the world, with what's being said on TV, and we can kind of go, well, is that really? I don't know. I mean, this is what it feels like here, and this is my experience, and let's talk about it.
Yeah. Let's talk about it.
Let's just talk about it.
Let's just throw it out there.
Right. Yeah.
And that's what I'm hoping with this podcast too, is sometimes it's too safe. Like we had for instance, sometimes the women only want to have a Q&A over the computer.
Right.
With our writers.
Okay.
And so that makes it hard because when you're sitting here, you might think of more questions. And so it frustrates our writers because they're like, is this going to be okay? I go, I guess if that's all they're willing to do.
Yes.
But when I can ask you so much more if you give me something, then I can say, oh my gosh, well, tell me more.
Right.
And so maybe here we can ask them more.
Yeah, I'm excited. Are there any guests, as we kind of wrap up, are there any guests that you would love to have on?
So many.
So many, right? We have a running list.
We do have a running list.
Is there anybody just super exciting that you think, well, this would be fun? This person impacted Waco in a really unique way.
Well, I mean, Fiona Bond.
Yes.
I love her. She's always enjoyable to talk to.
Totally.
She's done so many things for Waco. She has a great vision. Always just a pleasure to be around.
Yeah.
Dr. Tyra Lindsay Warren.
Okay, yeah.
She's one of the professors at Baylor, and I've heard her speak.
The
We've also
Faith and Family Film Festival, right? She's one of the founders, creators of that.
She has done so many things in her life and met so many people. She just is a fireball. And I just love talking to her at any moment in time.
I love it.
And so that's so much fun. What about you?
Gosh, I think there's so many women. I don't know. I've been wanting to talk. I wonder if we could wrangle Kim Mulkey in here.
Ooh.
What if we could get her to come back? Would she? I don't know.
I don't know.
I'm
That'd be a lot of questions.
It'd be a lot of questions.
That'd be fun.
I'm in my basketball mom era right now, so I feel like I could like have a little more lingo, to kind of go back and forth. I'd love to have some women, small business owners.
I know.
Stephanie Welch is a woman who is just so interesting and has such a cool story, and owns the Black Daisy Boutique and has done just so much and has stayed alive through ups and downs,
amazing.
Pandemic and not. I think there's a lot of good women that are filling up this town.
It is unbelievable. The amount of women we could choose from.
It is.
So it could go on.
It could go on and on.
On and on.
Well, until next time, though. But before we get to those amazing women, next time, I'm going to have a lot of questions for you.
Oh, my gosh, really?
So get excited.
I can't wait.
Get excited.
I'm a little nervous now.
I'm excited to even know you more and
me too.
more
It's been a
connections.
pleasure.
And you are definitely a woman of much interest to me.
And you to me, you have been. So thank you so much. I appreciate this so much. You have really spearheaded me sitting here, and I'm so grateful.
I'm grateful to be here. Thanks for letting me join.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll see you next time.
Okay.
And be sure to pick up a copy of your WACOAN or go to WACOAN.com.
Together, let's celebrate the strength, the grace, and the undeniable impact of the women who make our community great.
This has been a Rogue Media Network production.